Leaders need to know who they are, why they exist, and what makes them special. Indeed, what makes them great. Yet usually they are blind to this. And this is a problem because inside is where most of their power is. If leaders don't know who they are, there's no way anyone else can know who they are. And if managers aren't strong on the inside, there's no way they can be strong on the outside. As inner strength grows, others can't help but notice and be drawn to it almost irresistibly. My name is Bruce Holland. I'm the founder of Virtual Group Business Consultants Limited. I love this quote. Today you are you, that's truer than true. There's no one alive who is youer than you. So what is this greatness? Because each of us, I've worked with hundreds of managers, developing hundreds of managers, and each of them has had a core of greatness. I've found to be successful, you don't have to change who you are, you just have to become more of who you are. And it's largely about understanding your purpose and your genius. Understanding your purpose is part of the core of greatness. Just like a plant or a tree somehow knows what it will someday be, human beings have within them a sense of purpose, a knowledge of what they're intended to be. It's not necessarily clear, well defined, yet it's there. And I've found that when people are angry or greedy or self-interested, it's often because of an unconscious sense that their seed is unable to grow and they are not allowed to be themselves. The other part of the greatness is to understand your genius. We all have a genius factor. Most people have no idea what it is, and occasionally they sort of trip over it and succeed way beyond their expectations, but they forget about it. The trick is to identify your genius and use it more often and more deliberately. Genius is really important because when you're working normally, as this graph shows, we work to our weaknesses, the red area, and we work to our strengths, the blue area. Very occasionally, like one day, day 5 in this case, day 5 in a month, we might trip over and use our genius and succeed way beyond, perhaps creating 10 units of work instead of 3 for a strength and one for a weakness. Now, if we can only identify our genius and use it more often and more deliberately, our chart ends up looking like this. Far more yellow, far more work, far more output, far more success, because we are starting to use our genius more often and more deliberately. I've found that one of the best ways to start people thinking about their genius is to use Herman's brain dominance instrument. Now this is really important because people are different, and I've found that a lot of leaders are actually not all that self-aware, and yet when they do something like Herman's brain dominance instrument, they suddenly become more aware of who they are. I mean, some people are logical, rational, fact-based. Others are much more organised, sequential and planned. Still others, almost like a different species, are interpersonal, emotional and much more feeling-based. And then you get people who are holistic, intuitive, integrating and synthesizing. These are like 4 different species in the world, and whilst it's a simplistic way of looking at it, you can almost say that the blue people, and you can almost think of them as being coloured blue, painted blue, the blue people are great with IQ, intellectual quotient. The green people are much more physical quotient. Red people are much more emotional quotient. And S people are much more spiritual quotient. Now, obviously, this isn't the whole answer. In fact, it's only the start of it. But it is a great way to get people starting to think about their genius. we actually have a whole program getting people to think about who they are and how to liberate the human energy in their people. And we have a series of modules, half-day modules, spread over about a 3-month period. And it's quite interesting that we nearly always start with Herman, because if people understand who they are, then they're much, much more likely to understand who their people are. If they understand that they have a greatness, they're much, much more likely to look for greatness in their people. So Herman is a great way of starting. Give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to help you and your people find their genius, their purpose, their greatness, their core of greatness. It exists inside every single person, and it's probably the most important asset you and your people have, if only you can release it, liberate it, put it to work for your organisation.